Hello and welcome to another episode of Judge of Character. As always, I'm your host, Steve. Now, if you've ever told a story in your life, or even retold a story, chances are you've used something known as a trope. But unless you hang around on the internet, like I do, or unless you have an internet review show, like I do, then chances are you might not know what a trope is. A trope, essentially, is a literary device used to tell stories of all kinds. There are literally thousands upon thousands of different tropes, all interconnecting and working together to tell a cohesive story when used properly. And when used improperly, they can unleash a hell that is a billion times worse than any actual hell you could possibly conceive of. Tropes come in all sorts of varieties, including character tropes, plot tropes, and even location tropes. In fact, when you get right down to it, there's really no possible way to tell a story without using tropes. They're that important. Now, while some would argue whether or not there are good or bad tropes, it can be said that some tropes are worse than others. Oh, excuse me. One trope I find to be on the worst side of things is a character trope known as the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Basically, a Manic Pixie Dream Girl is a character, often female, who is artsy, flighty, and is usually dressed odd or has her hair an odd shade of color, which shows that she's different. Unless she's an anime character, in which case the odd-colored hair is just the norm. When used in storytelling, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl is often nothing more than a living MacGuffin, something used by the writers to motivate the main character in some way in order to progress the story. She's often rather flat, having no real development of her own to make her more three-dimensional, which makes sense for a character who often serves no other purpose than as a type of reward for the main character when he reaches the end of the story, or as a means to push the character along on their own road of development. So what does all that have to do with tonight's character? Well, a lot, actually. Tonight we're going to be talking about Ramona Flowers from the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels and film. Now, some of you might question exactly why we'd be talking about Ramona Flowers. After all, she's only been around for a few years, and at first glance doesn't seem to have made any major impacts whatsoever. Well, the truth is she's actually an interesting deconstruction of the whole Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and that alone is worth talking about. All I ask is that you stay with me on this, and I promise it'll all make sense in the end. So, who is Ramona Flowers, and what makes her a memorable character? Ramona Flowers is the heroine of the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels, and is also the love interest of the titular Scott Pilgrim. In the story, her and Scott meet and start dating, but things get complicated when her 7 evil exes, yes, you heard me right, challenge Scott to duels in order to control her love life. Scott is forced to square off against each ex so that he can continue dating Ramona and have a chance at love. The first novel was published way back in 2004, and slowly but surely gained a larger audience, culminating in it getting a big screen release, starring Michael Cera and Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers, respectively. The novels and film have since become huge hits with fans all over the world. The reason for this is that, despite the initial simplicity, the novels tell a rich story filled with complex characters and interesting motivations. And complexity is the very first thing that must be noted about Ramona Flowers. In fact, it might actually be the biggest point about her. When we first meet Ramona, it's in one of Scott's dreams. No, he isn't dreaming about her. She's literally skating through one of his dreams, taking a shortcut. If that made you scratch your head, don't worry, it gets better. You'll have a bald spot there in no time. After that first meeting, Scott is immediately smitten with her, unable to focus on anything, not even his 17-year-old Chinese Catholic school girlfriend. His 17-year-old Chinese Catholic school girlfriend.
I'm Chris Hansen, and this is To Catch a Predator.
After finding out she works for Amazon.ca, Scott orders some CDs and then uses her delivery to ask her out, which she agrees to, albeit hesitantly. Now, throughout these first few meetings, as well as a few later, Ramona comes off as cold, detached, and, well, somewhat of a bitch. Hark! I hear the sound of angry Ramona fans sharpening their pitchforks. I apologize if I come off sounding mean, but it's the honest truth. At the start of things, Ramona acts like a bit of a bitch. She doesn't seem interested in much of anything regarding Scott, and has a very detached attitude towards things. But that's actually a good thing, because as the story continues, Ramona opens up and she starts to become more defined. In fact, the plot point of the 7 evil exes does 2 things. 1, it provides conflict that needs to be resolved and a goal for our boy Scott to shoot for, and 2, they also serve to expand more on Ramona's past and why she is the way she is. But how so? Well, let's take a look and find out. Let's start with Evil X number 1, Matthew Patel. Matthew Patel is the first evil ex Scott must fight, and obviously Ramona's first ex. The relationship between Ramona and Patel could be summed up as a summer fling. Hell, not even that. They were together for all of 2 weeks, with Ramona dumping him after that and moving on, something Patel never learned to do.
What a bitch!
Beg pardon?
I said, what a bitch!
And who the hell are you?
I am Fedora Man, defender of men's rights everywhere. Wherever a man is getting put down by a feminazi, I'll be there.
Oh, Jesus Christ, not one of these people.
Wherever a man is sidelined into the dreaded friend zone, I'll be there.
Hey,
Wherever a man
Trilby
is
boy!
ridiculed for his choice of hatwear, I'll be there to defend it. Wherever a man is ridiculed for his choice of facial hair, I'll be there to defend it.
Firstly, shut up. Secondly, where do you get off calling Ramona a bitch?
Didn't you see how she dumped him after 2 weeks? She used him! That makes her a bitch!
No, that makes her a stupid teenager who has no experience whatsoever with love and what to do with it. What, you never made any stupid decisions when you were a teenager?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and choose not to believe you.
I can provide more proof of her bitchery.
Is that even a word?
It doesn't matter. Continue with the list of exes.
Right. On to Evil X number 2, Lucas Lee. Ramona's second relationship wasn't much better than the last, with it primarily consisting of drama and ending almost literally when her next boyfriend showed up.
In this case, Ramona showed her shallow ways by simply dumping Lee as soon as the next best thing came along.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of bitchy, but...
Number 3, Todd Ingram.
Todd Ingram was Ramona's third relationship, and was arguably the first to have any substance to it. Granted, it wasn't a very good relationship, but it lasted longer, and they actually interacted in a somewhat positive way. But then Todd had to go to vegan college, and Ramona dropped him like a hot potato.
Ah, see? She wasn't willing to wait for him. As soon as he left, she dumped his ass.
Are you sure it wasn't because he was a douche?
Moving on!
Number 4, Roxy Richter. Roxy was a girl Ramona experimented with in college when she was a little bi-curious. She quickly broke it off later, saying it was just a phase and that it didn't count.
And just how would you feel if someone told you that you were just part of the phase and that you didn't count?
Well, I suppose I'd be upset, but...
Numbers 5 and 6, the Katanage twins!
Of all the exes we meet in the story, these guys get the least amount of time, both in the film and in the comics. The only meaningful bit of info we get about them is that Ramona cheated on the both of them with each other.
Aha! Now she's a cheater! And you know what they say, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Bullshit! Now you're just looking for any excuse to turn her into a villain, and that's not what it's about.
Oh really? Then what is it about?
How about you shut up, and I'll tell you?
Fine.
Ugh. The whole point I'm trying to make with the exes here is that they show the kind of person that Ramona used to be. How she still kind of is. She's a person who is wronged, who has been wronged, a person with thoughts and feelings that are more complex than just love or hate. And it's these complexities that actually help to deconstruct the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope, as well as make her a more interesting and defined character. Her seeming bitchiness defines her as a character because it's part of her personality, something that developed over the years and now has to be dealt with by both Ramona and Scott. It adds flavor to the character, and it also ends up being part of a personal goal for her, to get over that part of herself. It also serves to deconstruct the Manic Pixie Dream Girl in that, unlike how the trope is commonly used, we see that Ramona has her own problems and baggage to deal with. So how can she inspire Scott to be a better person when her problems are just as bad as his? Well, that's kind of the point. Ramona and Scott aren't perfect. They've got problems, and in order for them to actually be successful as a couple, they have to get over their own hang-ups and learn to work together. And that's exactly what happens over the course of the story. She changes and grows up, essentially. But there's another part of the whole Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope that Ramona defies, and that's her personality. In most forms of fiction, Manic Pixie Dream Girls have a personality that is outgoing, with a flair for life, yada yada yada. This personality is often what pulls the main character to them and causes them to change. But in the case of Ramona, it's a different story. We've already established one aspect of her personality, but there's another we haven't touched upon. Her hypocrisy. Make no mistake, at times Ramona can be a hypocrite. In the comics, she'll get angry at Scott over doing something that she perceives as stupid, when at the same time, she'll be doing something just as bad, if not worse. Hell, in at least one example, Scott spent the day with an old friend who happened to be an attractive female, and she got mad about it. But then, in the same situation, she was spending time with an ex, possibly even making out with them. So, between the hypocrisy and the bitchiness, what does Ramona have to offer as far as her personality? Well, not a whole lot, actually.
You see? Even you can't come up with a good reason for why she's a good character.
Now wait a damn minute, I'm gonna get myself out of this one. I have got an ace in the hole.
Oh really? And what is that?
The original version of Ramona from the comics. I'll go into more detail about this later on, but right now it's important that you know that, like any other piece of fiction, Scott Pilgrim suffered from some of the problems that are inherent when adapting anything to the big screen. While the film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World isn't a bad adaptation, it did have to make quite a few changes in order to accommodate the story in an hour-and-a-half format. And one of those changes was excising a massive amount of additional story that helped to further flesh out Ramona and her motives. As a result, Ramona from the comics is much more defined than her film counterpart, including her personality. One example of material that was cut was the encounter with Roxy Richter, Ramona's fourth evil ex. In the film, the encounter amounts to a fight between Roxy and Ramona, and then Roxy and Scott. And that's it. They fight, he wins, and it's done. But in the comics, we're shown a scene where Ramona actually has a few semi-civil moments with Roxy, although they don't last long. It's not much, but it's enough of a difference to show that comics Ramona has a little bit more depth to her personality than film Ramona.
That's it? That's all you have to say about her personality?
Well, yeah. Okay, fine. In regards to her personality, Ramona is somewhat lacking. Let's move on.
What say you now, puny critic? Are you ready to admit defeat?
Never!
Keep it up! You have no way to show that this Ramona Flowers is anything more than a weak character who isn't memorable at all.
Oh yeah? How about her own dichotomy?
A what?
You know, dichotomy. A division into two opposing parts. Oh, does Fedora Man not know something? Is it possible that the man who claims to be super intelligent is stumped by a simple definition?
Get on with it!
Fine. There is an interesting dichotomy with the character of Ramona Flowers, although it's relatively minor and not as important as other factors. Hell, it barely qualifies as a dichotomy. However, I feel it's interesting to warrant brief discussion. In both the comics and the film, Ramona is presented as being physically strong, capable of taking on any opponent who's foolhardy enough to try her. But, at the same time, she's shown as being unable to face up to her past and personal issues. It creates an interesting dynamic because while she's obviously strong physically, she's a little lacking in willpower when it comes to her personal problems, preferring to run away from them instead of tackling them head-on with the same tenacity she would show for a physical opponent. A lot of people won't see this, and I imagine even fewer will care, but it's an interesting element for the character.
That's actually pretty interesting.
See? And you want to know something else that's interesting about the character?
What's that?
The difference between the film version and the comic version.
Didn't you already talk about that?
Briefly, but I'll go into more detail here. As I said earlier, there are a few differences between comic book Ramona and film Ramona. While the character is essentially the same, the changes that have been made have resulted in a stark difference, one that affects how we view the character. In the comics, as the story plays out, Ramona goes from being a bitchy ice queen who doesn't seem to care about anything, to an obviously damaged individual who has been molded by her experiences and is attempting to get over that with the help of her boyfriend. In the film, Ramona goes from being a bitchy ice queen to a less bitchy kind of nice girl. Don't get me wrong, I love the movie. In fact, it's one of my favorites. But I'll be the first to admit that Ramona in the film was less than stellar. However, I blame this more on the fact that they had to cut out so much material to fit the story to film, and not the actress herself. But, having said that, does Mary Elizabeth Winstead's performance as Ramona have any bearing on the character herself? Kind of. I want to stress that Miss Winstead is a fine actor. Apart from Ramona Flowers, one of my favorite roles of hers was from the film Sky High, and she did a decent job in the Die Hard movie. But there are a few times when she goes a bit much with the whole broken bird aspect of the character. Otherwise, she turns in a great performance as Ramona. But honestly, I would have loved to see how she would have handled the character if given the material that was originally in the comics.
You're beginning to bore me. Just admit it. Ramona Flowers isn't a memorable character at all. She's She's pathetic, like most women.
What was that?
You heard me.
Alright, listen here, you misogynistic asshole. You want to know what makes Ramona Flowers a memorable character? I'll tell you. Now, I won't lie. Ramona Flowers isn't the most memorable character I've ever looked at on this show. She hasn't done anything to reshape fiction in any way, and she hasn't left a considerable mark on culture. However, that doesn't excuse that she's a well-written character, fully rounded with actual motivations and a personality, and is a great deconstruction on the Manic Pixie Dream Girl and how it works. So what if she's not as great as other characters? That doesn't give you the right to shame her or to treat her like she's the enemy. That doesn't give you an excuse to act like all the other men's rights activists out there and treat her like she's a Nazi.
Not all men are
Yes, all men are like that. Men like you. Men who don't know how to be a fucking man and own up to your own problems. It's a sad day indeed when a fictional character is more of a man than you are, and she's a woman!
But you'll pay for this, Steve. I swear on my fedora that you will pay for your insolence.
Does that mean you're leaving?
Yes!
Good! Now get the fuck out before I call the cops on your misogynistic ass!
Fine. There will come a day when a woman will mock you for your flat cap, and on that day you'll call out to me for help, and I'll look down and whisper no.
Was that a Watchmen reference?
Away!
So, to sum up. Again, Ramona Flowers is not the most memorable character I've ever covered here, but she's still worth taking a look at, and if you've never experienced Scott Pilgrim, then I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. Just make sure you start with the comics and then watch the film. It's better that way. Now, I'm your host Steve, reminding all of you to stay in character.
You've been foolhardy, Steve. Your disrespect has cost you greatly. From now on, you and I are mortal enemies. No, other than women. Throw that away!